You're listening to Free Mama Radio, where we believe you can have both a successful business and show up as the mom you want to be. I'm your host, Lauren Golden, a mom who built a full-time income working part-time hours. Now, I help other moms like you learn how to work from home on your own terms, take control of your schedule, and make more money so you can live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. I am on a mission to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So if you've been wondering, can I really have it all? This podcast will give you the answers.
Hey guys, welcome to Free Mama Radio. I'm so excited about today's episode because our guest today is like an honorary free mama, plus she's kind of honorary team mama, and she's just an all-around cool, awesome, amazing person. So we're going to talk about all the ways that we are connected with each other today, but this is the beautiful and amazing Laura Couvillon. She is, and this is her words, I would like to point out, she is like a professional mullet, business in the front, party in the back. Show of hands who wants to be best friends with Laura now, because I definitely do. She loves to get stuff done, and along the way, she likes to have fun. She spent 11 years in the corporate world, working her way up the ladder, where she finally landed as a show director. She planned and managed conferences and trade shows with a team of 5 all over North America. Next came marriage, and then 3 kids in a baby carriage. I love that. So she ditched corporate for a more pick my kids up from school type of career. Her background led to an amazing career as an integrator. We'll talk about what that means. I don't know how many free mamas are familiar with the idea of being an integrator in your virtual business, so we'll unpack that. And through her work, she found a need and co-founded IntegrateUp with ToriAnn Perkey to help digital entrepreneurs hire their dream. Today, I am passionate about matching entrepreneurs and service providers to create successful teams that fuel small business growth. Needless to say, hopefully, like this is a lady with connection. So everybody, please pay attention. I'm so excited, Laura. Welcome to Free Mama Radio.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to point out, like, for those that can see, do you see how my setup's like business in the front and then party in the back with like my little, like, this is like erasable. I have a sign that says, let's celebrate. And I'm celebrating no snow because Houston just had the snowmageddon. And so I'm kind of excited about my setup, but that's how I feel when I work.
You're living.
I'm living it. I'm living it.
Your brand. This is amazing. I am so excited to dive in. So let's go back in time to your pre-husband kid life. And like, what was corporate Laura like? What was your life like? And how did you get into events and all of this stuff? And paint a picture for us.
So corporate Laura was awesome. I planned my prom in high school and we got to go to the like hotel. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, planning parties is a thing. I want to do that. Went to college, got an internship in Houston at a place that planned large conferences and trade shows. And I was like, this is perfect because Laura does not want to work on the weekends. Like, I don't want to plan weddings, but 9 to 5 weekdays, that's cool. I got the job after college. They hired me and I worked my way up. I ran 5 large conferences and trade shows. I mean, I had to travel. It was so cool. So when you run events in big cities, you are the events client. Okay. So we would go to Chicago and we were Chicago's client. So we would be put up in presidential suites. I traveled so much. I was flying first class. I mean, it was nothing a 20-something-year-old should be experiencing. I was like, jet setting. I'd come home when I first got married. My husband's like, do you want to go out to eat? I'm like, ugh, I'm so sick of going out to eat. I had too much steak. Like, yeah. And it was perfect for me. I love people. I love working in a room. And so big events, it was just amazing. But had my baby and traveling 2 to 4 times a month just wasn't conducive to having a little baby at home. So that pulled at my heartstrings.
So what did you do? And if it was a smooth and easy decision for you, like, be honest about that. But like, did you know what your options were? Did you go straight to staying at home? Were you able to do that? Like, what did that transition look like away from this corporate job? And for the record, I planned my own wedding and then I decided that I was qualified to be a wedding planner. And that was my first side gig. So I think us, people, like we do it once and we're like, I can do this. This is amazing.
Oh yeah. Like, well, and I mean, it's not that hard, but when I planned my own wedding, I called the caterer and the guy was like, after we started talking, he's like, am I talking to the bride or the event planner? And I was like, dude, I'm your worst nightmare. Yeah. So I had my second child. I have 3 and my husband and I knew I wanted to be at home with them, like be around. And so I went straight to staying at home. And I spent a full year as a stay-at-home mom, but I love business. Sometimes I'm like, God, why did you make me like business so much? Like I don't fit in with the stay-at-home moms. And so I wanted something else. So I started doing little one-off jobs for an old boss. And then we moved out to where I am from. And I started in Lauren Golden's favorite MLM world. And I spent 2 years in that.
No judgment. Me too.
So, but I mean, everything you say about it's correct. I spent 2 years. I worked my tail off. It was so taxing and daunting. It's never stopping, right? It's just like, 24/7. And so it was wonderful experience, but there definitely came a time where the door closed like 3 different times. And I was like, I'm done. Because of the MLM, I was in this digital space, how to like meet people on Facebook, blah, blah, blah.
Hey,
and
girl.
I know, hey.
Hey girl, I haven't talked to you since high school. Do you need something? No. We're being
not now. Yeah.
Being nice.
But that was it. But I was in the beautiful group of a favorite, Brittany Bullen. And at the time, and I was just like looking at her course about how to make videos online. And oh my gosh, I remember it crystal clear. She made this post. She was blowing up. She had this course that was exploding. She had so many people in her group and she made a post. She's like, you guys, I can't keep up. I need to hire a team. If you wanted to work for me, what would you do? And the post had like hundreds of comments. And I was like, yes, I want to work for Brittany Bullen. So I was like, I don't know. I know you're online, but I can be your event planner. Little did I know Brittany Bullen has this gigantic dream to have events all over the world. So we start private messaging and she's like, what would my event look like? And I'm like, I don't know. And I pitched her and she's like, okay, how much do you charge? And I was like, I don't know. So I Googled, how much do you charge? And I was like, yelled to my husband, I'm like, Jared, what should I charge? So I threw out $40 an hour. She was like, you're hired. And that was May. And we ran her event the next February in Salt Lake City. And it was like a dream come true. And that was my first job online, like legit. And that's where I met my business partner today, ToriAnn Perkey. So it was really the like ground zero of everything I have to be thankful for today in the online world.
Okay. We have so much to unpack. So like so many different things. So number one, you kind of got lucky, but the definition of luck is when like opportunity meets preparation. And what I love about your first experience in the online space is you were doing what you used to do at your job, but in the online space. And that's actually how I got started in this world too. Like I was running, I wasn't ever trained for any of this, but I was running the school that I worked at. I was running their social media. And so when I learned like a social media manager is a thing as a business, not just like as an employee, my brain like exploded. I'm like, I can do what I do for other people, but like on my own and be in control of it. This is insane. So I love that you kind of put yourself out there and you did that. And it created it was this like ripple effect, right? Like you wouldn't have been able to see it when it happened, but like looking back, you're like, oh my gosh, like that changed the trajectory of everything. And I think everybody listening right now, like you have that. You might be in it right now. Like you might be in the thick of an opportunity right now that you're like, oh, this wasn't perfect, but like it's going to lead you to the thing that's going to lead you to the thing that's going to be like the thing. And I think that's like what I hear so much of in your story, Laura. Let me ask you a question. Would Laura today charge $40 an hour for the same thing?
Well, knowing how magical it was, yes. But
to be hired for the same gig, work with
no,
Laura. Okay.
No, I wouldn't. No.
The other lesson there is like you were resourceful, you made it up, and you owned it. You know what I mean? Because you're inside the Free Mama Movement Facebook community. You see posts all the time about people asking like, "How much should I charge?"
Yes.
I've never done this before. Like, you guys have to have the willingness just to do it and feel the opportunity and the learning experience and the energy, even if you didn't charge maybe quote unquote your worth. Like I see, do you have any comments on that, by the way? Like, well, I see so much talk about like charge your worth. And I'm like, you've never done it before. Just charge something and get going.
I have so many opinions about this, especially because we do hiring projects, but let me take a second. So my story continues. I won't keep going, but I did take a hiatus from digital and I went back to this corporate land because it was what my family needed for about 6 months. After the event, I got hired and recruited to be an in-house event planner for this law firm. God bless them. Terrible place to work. It definitely solidified. Never want to go back to corporate. But after that, I was like, all right, I'm all in on building an online business. My first client after that was $16 an hour. I felt confident with the 40 because I was like, I have 10 years of event planning experience. What I did for him was social media management, $16 an hour. And I almost did a backflip when I got the job. And it's because, and Lauren, what you say is so right. You never know. The space is so much about connection. It's a hard thing to recommend today, but any live event you can get your booty to, go to. Because from Brittany's event, I met my business partner. I also met my other business partner client, Stephanie Dove Blake. We met at that event. She was a speaker. 9 months later, she hired me. She's my ride or die. I'm her integrator for 2.5 years now. And it all came from that event.
Is she who introduced you to the Free Mama movement, or is that not true?
Oh, no. Well, yes. Actually, your ad got me, Lauren.
Okay.
but when I mentioned it to Stephanie, she was like, oh my gosh, yes, you need to go. So she sealed it in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. I want to go back like a little bit further because you said something that maybe not all of our listeners are going to resonate with this, but I know there are some who do, and you kind of glossed over it. But this was definitely something I experienced multiple times kind of in my free mama journey. You said, I don't fit in with the stay-at-home moms. Like, I literally asked God, like, why did you make me like business? I just want to stay home with my kids, but I love this stuff. And I know that that's been something I felt. And I know other free mamas have been vocal about that at certain points of like, it's not that I want to necessarily be home with them all the time. It's that I want the choice. Like, I want to choose when I get to do what. And does that still somehow make me, different? And to me, that's kind of what the free mama is all about. And I'm sure you've experienced that in your own way as well. Like, I knew I didn't want to be the lean in like corporate mom, but I've never been the Pinterest mom. Like, that's not in the skill set. And it's like, to me, the free mama is like this huge gray area in between where you get to like define what your awesome life looks like. And so do you have any other, stories or maybe even like pieces of advice for people who are feeling that way of like, I want to be home, but I don't really know what my place looks like. I don't know how to figure out like, how can I do both essentially?
Yeah. For me, figuring that out and owning it was a journey for sure. I spent a lot of years doing both simultaneously. That was the MLM life, like working with my kids, like during nap time, which that's the facade, but working like while they're at my feet and I'm not paying attention to either 100%. So for me, I've come to a place where I know you're so excellent with boundaries, but I have very distinct boundaries. At 3:00, I'm out to pick my kids up from school. That is a non-negotiable. I want to be in their memory bank of seeing mom's face at park pickup. I do all the extracurricular activities and I'll hop on later if needed. So now I'm very intentional about 100% business, 100% mom, and being there for each action and keeping my commitment. So gosh, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think just accepting it, owning it, and still realizing like I'm a mom, even though I'm not the stay-at-home mom that's like doing all like the Pinterest stuff like you talked about. Like I'm also the mom that's like, sure, have 5 kids over for a play date. Like, so we all have different styles and just owning it and finding your quote unquote tribe. Gosh, that sounds so cliche, but I do feel like I've heard you say this. Some of my best friends are in the computer screen. We connect on so many things and it's such a hard world to describe to other people. Just own it and lean into that. Like you can create, again, another cliche, but you can create the life you want. And mine is, I want to pick my kids up at school from 3 and I want to be able to go on a run in the middle of the beautiful Houston weather. And that's what I do.
I love it. I don't want to beat a dead horse, and nor did I think we would talk about this, but I think it's so important. Did you have to overcome any internal stuff to get to this? Like, I love this message of like owning it. You basically like named this episode of Free Mama Radio, like own it. But like, what did you have to do to own it? Because I know so many, including myself. I mean, and anybody who was around in the Free Mama in December, that like I was struggling. We had been homeschooling our kids. We had moved. We didn't have help anymore. And I was feeling like a failure because I couldn't quote unquote do it all anymore, even though I literally teach that it's not possible. But I was feeling really guilty and shameful that like I couldn't find a way to figure this out. Did you deal with any of those feelings like on this trek to getting to a place where you're like, no, I own it and I'm 100% in and growing this business. And when I'm not doing that, it's boundaries, right? It's now I'm doing this. Did you have to reconcile any of the internal junk?
Yeah, I learned to own it by having like a mental breakdown. Pretty much. It was Hurricane Harvey hit Houston and flooded like probably 40% of the community in which I live. I had great friends, flood. It was just a devastation of a natural disaster, which I know you can relate to because you were here.
Yeah.
And it was just
I have PTSD, honestly. Like it was a lot.
Yeah. And during that time, I was doing the digital work, still some MLM stuff. And then I'm also like picking up quilts from a random neighbor to wash because she flooded. And I'm making sandwiches for a work crew that's tearing out sheetrock. And I'm coming up with Pinterest games for my kids to do. And it was like 10 days. Also dealing with like today you have tornadoes and now we have flooding and like now you have power outages. I was trying to be all these things and it just kind of like spiked and peaked at a point where I just like had my first ever anxiety attack, which I'd never experienced. And I thought I was like having a heart attack. I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital. I called my friend who's an ER nurse. She came over and she's like, "You're having an anxiety attack." And I was like, I don't have those, but you do when you push yourself too much. And so through a lot of digging myself out of that hole, therapy, self-realization, I've come to a place where I love business. Got it. I love my kids. Got it. If I don't set limits, my mental health will suffer. And I will not allow that because that was a terrible place to be. I also do, this is such a side note, but good gracious, we need to talk about it because you posted on Instagram that the mommy wine culture is so dangerous. I also drank my way through Hurricane Harvey. I had like wine galore because what else do you do when you're bottled up? Like it's such a joke in hurricanes, like party.
Or global pandemics.
Yeah. And if you do that too much. So the following January, I randomly found Annie Grace. Go buy her book if you are finding yourself having a daily glass of wine, because I was like, every mom has that. No, they don't. That's not normal. And so I got Annie Grace's book, This Naked Life. I barely drink anymore. And if I do, it's a choice. Bottom line is Annie Grace changed my life in that department. I thought like every mom, because of mommy wine culture, was having the 5 o'clock glass of wine. And then my 5 o'clock glass of wine turned to a 4 o'clock glass of wine. My low was when Annie Grace, her story is she got to the point where she wasn't drinking bottles of wine. She was drinking Franzia, like the bag. So she wouldn't count how many bottles she was drinking. Mine was, I crushed a whole bottle of wine by myself. And I remember looking at it like, oh, how did that just happen? And I kind of shoved it at the bottom of the trash. And I was like, and now I'm like hiding it from my husband. This is not a good zone. So I read her book. I did her challenge and like life changing. So I got off on that tangent because I feel like it's also important as moms to hear that is not normal. I thought it was, and it's not. And I remember even telling a friend, like after doing Annie Grace's challenge, we were going to go out in February, she and I for dinner. And I was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but like, don't think I'm weird. I'm not going to have a glass of wine. And she was like, why'd you even say that? That's not weird. And I was like, it's not. Anyways, I'm sorry. Why am I talking about this? But it's important.
But I am just sitting here going, wow, this is like the most intimate interview I think I've ever done. And I'm so grateful for your truth, Laura. Like this is what yeah, we can talk about business, but spoiler to all the free mamas listening, the business part's actually the easier part. It's keeping yourself together. It's dealing with the fears and the insecurities and the limiting beliefs and the bad habits. That's the hard part of business. Anybody can figure out enough to get going in business. And I know that if you're brand new, you're probably like, are you kidding me right now? But like, here's your spoiler. Like, it's true. And it's constant. We're always growing. There's always something new that's going to plague us or challenge us or give us, a new hesitation. And so I'm just so grateful for your honesty. We can take like a left turn back to the business lane if you're cool with that. So I know you said we've met Stephanie, we're working as an integrator. Like, did you even know what's an integrator? Maybe we should, because I think that some people are probably like, could you elaborate?
Yes. Well, okay. So Stephanie, I'll explain an integrator through a little bit through our story. So we met at the event. I was the event planner. Brittany Bullen, she has these crazy personal development activities, and we had to find a partner in the room and hold hands. She dimmed the lights and you had to stare into each other's eyes. And the exercise was like, Lauren, I would say to you 10 times, you are loved. You are loved. And then you had to say it back to me. You are loved. And then I had to say, I am loved. And like, it's making me all nervous thinking about it and by the end, we're both sobbing.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, nice to meet you, Stephanie. And then we left. Like that was our first encounter.
Wow.
Fast forward 9 months later, she was working 40, 50, 60 hours in her business. She's an amazing mom. She didn't want to be doing that. She reached out to Brittany. She's like, I need help. She put her in touch with ToriAnn, who I work with. And ToriAnn's like, I can't help you. I'm homeschooling. You should talk to Laura. So she talks to me. She tells me what she needs. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just listened to a podcast by Amy Porterfield. She talks about her integrator. That's what you need. Stephanie says, great. Are you an integrator? And I was like, I have no idea. So we took 2 days to pray about it, read Rocket Fuel, and listen to the podcast. And 2 days later, Stephanie's like, I totally need that. If you're it, you're hired. And I was like, I took the quiz. I'm an integrator.
Is the quiz in Rocket Fuel?
It's in the book, okay. Rocket Fuel. So Rocket Fuel is kind of the book that coined the term integrator. A good example is Walt Disney was this visionary. Let's build these parks. I have Mickey Mouse high in the sky. Roy, his brother, was his integrator. He was like, slow your roll. We're going to get there. But first we have to build Space Mountain. Then we have to do this. And we have to do it very methodically. And I'm going to implement your vision, but I'm going to do it in a way that we're not going to kill everybody around us. Not to say visionary entrepreneurs kill anyone, but it's a yin to the yang. It's an internal business partner. The name is kind of synonymous in our world to online business managers, to director of operations, and another term is a fractional COO. So they're all synonymous. Whomever you talk to, they'll like swear they're all different and this is why. So that's what it is.
That's awesome. And so through doing this work as an integrator, tell us how IntegrateUp came about. You came back with ToriAnn, and tell us like kind of what you're, in my opinion, what you're most active with or most known for, like in the free mama community.
So Stephanie has taught me personally, she always uses this term, I'm going to hold you with my hand open. And she's so gracious. And so we started working, I know, and she does it. It's just a beautiful thing. She does it. She's so giving. And so we were working together and she started referring people to me. Like she's very active in a lot of different communities in the space. And she's like, you need an integrator. You should hire Laura. And I mean, for anyone out there who's an integrator OBM, a big difference between that and a virtual assistant is your book of business is closed after 2 to 3 clients. You can't, because the number of hours you need to dedicate, you really get hands-on in the business. So she started referring people and I couldn't keep up, but I wanted the business. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I'll build an agency, an integrator agency. I also couldn't keep up with that. So at the time I reached out to ToriAnn Perkey, who you've heard her name. She was Brittany Bullen's OBM. And so I said, ToriAnn, are you available to come join this agency? She comes and she's like, I would really love to do this, but I want to build it with you. What do you think about being business partners? And for any of you Enneagram nerds out there, I'm an Enneagram 7. And what I have learned about myself is I do it better together than I do alone. So I'm not a business builder on my own, but man, if you give me a good partner, I'm all in. I love it. So we started building this agency. We both hated it. Well, that's a strong word because we loved our clients, but we felt like it was a really hard thing to do to like, Lauren, you're going to hire us, but I'll never see you again. You're going to work with Susie and I get to collect the money. It just felt for us not right. So one day on a sales call, I just happened to be talking to an entrepreneur and they're like, can I hire you? And I was like, man, I can't, I'm booked. I was like, but I can help you find someone. It was a free mama. You referred to me, Lauren. Oh my gosh, you referred to me, Megan, who is your accounting and who sells her beautiful course, Megan Hernandez.
Yeah.
And so she was my first hiring project. Shout out to Megan. And she I was like, would you let me give this a try? And she did. So after that, I was like, ToriAnn, maybe we could just do this. We were talking about strengths finders, Lauren. I love to connect people. I love like, oh, Lauren, you should meet so-and-so. And I just love that. And so out of Stephanie's beautiful referrals and like holding me with a hand open and ToriAnn wanting to go do stuff together, we've created IntegrateUp because we found online entrepreneurs, like it's such a unique problem because all you free mamas, I hear it in the group, you don't know where to find the people that are hiring. Well, guess what? They don't know where to find you either. I just got off a call with a 7-figure earner. She's like, I don't know where to find these people. And that's why she's using us. So we felt like there was a bridge to be built there. And that's how we created.
You guys have a Facebook group. So do you want to share everybody what's the name of it? And of course, we will put all the links to Rocket Fuel and all the different things we talked about. We'll put on freemamaradio.com. So you guys can check out all these resources, but where is the Facebook group and what can people expect to experience when they join that?
Yeah, so it's Higher Up Online. It's a group of service providers and we post job openings in there and we encourage everybody to post jobs. And so on the daily, a couple of jobs get posted. And so this is not the discovery call model. It's literally the entrepreneur that has put out an application form. So, is another really valid way to get hired. And it's mostly for contract positions, some full-time. And we share tips of what we're seeing in the trends as we do these jobs about how to get hired, stuff like that.
That's awesome. And we're going to dive into our action taking tips here in just a second. She's going to share with you guys 3 ways to stand out and get noticed kind of in this whole hiring application discovery call space. You can take this wherever you want to go, Laura. But before I do that, I want to, for anybody who doesn't know, Laura, since watching her do all of this and grow this and watching all of her job posts in the Free Mama community and being like, okay, I'm over here and I've got the matchmaker program, which is awesome. And by the way, if you are a student of the Free Mama movement, hopefully you are a part of our directory and you're part of our matchmaker program. If you're not, then contact our team and we'll help you guys get set up in there. But I was over here like, okay, I don't have the time to manage this thing in my business. And I'm obviously big on outsourcing. And I'm watching Laura already do this thing so beautifully. And I'm like, oh, so I reached out to Laura and I'm like, hi, would you like to take this thing over? Because I am in the way. And she was like, I would like to take this thing over. So shout out to the Free Mama Matchmaker program as well and IntegrateUp for using their processes to come in and breathe some life into something that I could no longer handle. And again, anybody who's listening, if you are a student of the Free Mama movement, make sure you guys are a part of that so that Laura has access to your information through that as well. Anything I missed there?
No, that's exciting. I just want to say, you said it was beautiful how I mentioned Stephanie holds people with a hand open. Lauren, you do that as well. You're so giving to your community, like the way you lift others up. Like you just said, she did. You guys, Lauren contacted me out of the blue and she's like, what would you think about partnering in this matchmaker? And I was like, hashtag dreams come true. I mean, it's just, so I just think it's you embody that as well. And I think everyone in your community would absolutely agree. So you're so loved and your generosity is abundant.
Thank you. And something else everybody should maybe make note of though, is that every Free Mama who's on my team, which is almost my entire team, are people who really embody what it means to be a Free Mama. It's people who are also doing this, who are also holding their hand out and holding the space for others and choosing collaboration over competition. And this is easier said than done, you guys, but we already talked about the internal work's the hardest. Like Laura impressed me as well as other people on my team because she was showing up and doing the thing. Like a million times in your journey, Laura, and everybody, you can get in your own way and you can stall and you can tell yourself a narrative where you're not good enough or you're not qualified. She's an event planner. That's what she was formally trained to do. And she's running essentially a job placement firm. Like that's awesome. And you got there because you followed the breadcrumbs and you saw the opportunity and you paid attention. And then you put yourself out there to get visible in a really big way while you were doing it. So I'm going to put the attention and spotlight back on you and kudos to you, because if I wouldn't have known what you were doing, you wouldn't have created that opportunity for yourself. So I just sent the email. All right, let's get into some action tips for you guys. So Laura, help all of us Free Mamas show up better, stronger. What are 3 things through all of these hiring and these entrepreneurs that you've worked with and these like frigging dream clients for Free Mamas, these like 7-figure business owners, like what are 3 things either that they're looking for or 3 things that Free Mamas can do to make sure that they're standing out and getting connected with these people?
One is apply, always apply, right? When in doubt, just apply. And because the way I see it, there's several ways to land clients in this space. You have the discovery call model. And so you I know there's sales tactics for landing those, and those are fantastic opportunities, but applying to job openings as well, because they're not just in our Hire Up Online group. I'll see them all the time, like Instagram stories, a brand I follow on Instagram was hiring and they posted it. And so I'm like, oh man, like half of our group is compatible for that. So I put it in the Hire Up Online group. And so just when you see it, you can never miss out on applying. And that's how I got my first $16 job on social media. It was on Indeed and I applied. And so that would be absolutely tip number 1.
If someone sees something and they're like, this is a dream opportunity, but I haven't done it before, or there's 2 things on the list they're asking for, something I know, and I don't know the data on it, but I know statistically speaking, women more so than men will talk themselves out of doing something. Like they'll disqualify themselves. To what extent should someone do that or not do that when they're looking at job applications?
Yeah. So a job application or description, there's a lot of information there. When I write them, it says responsibilities, requirements, and the list can be 30 deep. But when it comes down to it, the process is when we get all the applicants in, I'm doing one currently. We had 302 people apply. How do you even manage that, right? That's a lot of people to sort through. So the very first step is I take the number one thing the entrepreneur is looking for, and I use my little Google sheet and I sort for that. And that immediately narrowed it down to 100 immediately. And so you don't know what that one thing is. However, there are clues. Usually it's at the tip top, right? If you're looking and it says need launch experience, that might be the number one filter thing, or it could be social media experience with YouTube. And then there's more social media experience with Instagram. You just don't know what it is. It's usually at the top because they say the first thing I need is this. And so it's written down. Don't count yourself out. And I have seen that happen. Someone reads the whole list and like, oh, well, I don't have those last three things. You just never know. So absolutely apply, because the first step in the process is sorting, and it could be something that you are crushing it at.
And I remember when we did our interview for the Matchmaker website, you said something that was like your IntegrateUp philosophy. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. See how you remember that? That's like your superpower. Yes. So our philosophy
was though.
Well, that's good.
I remember being like, oh my gosh, I love that. Like it just left me feeling good.
Yeah. So our philosophy is we hire first for culture, and a close second is skill set. But you guys, as the free mamas, are not going to be happy in your role, and the entrepreneur is not going to be happy in their role unless you guys are a cultural fit and you like each other and you do well. Because if there's friction there, it will never last long term. Even if you're the best graphic designer on the face of the planet, it doesn't matter. So we always look for culture first, definitely. And that's really how you should be sorting through applying. If you don't fit with their cultural pillars, don't even bother. You're going to make yourself miserable.
Totally. All right. What's tip number 2?
Tip number 2 is Lauren Golden's tip, put a bow on it. This is so true though. I mean, in the application, we'll see misspellings, punctuation errors. We'll see questions not filled out. And when we're dealing with it, not always, but if we have 300 people, that automatic, I can't even deal with you. A really good one is if it asks for a link, make sure your Google link is working, make sure all that stuff is available, because the person, whoever's behind the screen, the entrepreneur, they don't want to be wasting time like, oh, I got to request access. Like that's a pain. So make sure all your T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and make sure every detail is accounted for.
Love it. Number 3.
Okay. Number 3, you guys put your best foot forward. I mean, when we get down to the interview process, and hopefully you know this for discovery calls, the stuff I have seen is crazy. Like you show up in, I mean, this is so simple and you know this, but like a clean environment, decent lighting. If for some crazy reason you're in your car, be able to explain why, because while it's understandable, you're going to have kids around. I'm a free mama, right? The entrepreneur also needs to know you're going to be able to work and you're going to have clean, clear time to do so. And if your discovery call, like you just got done with a workout, that's not the time. The time to show up for getting up for a workout is when you've been working for the person for 3 months and you know the team call is no big deal. But when you're coming to show up, freshen up a little bit, whatever that means to you. I mean, the funniest story is I interviewed someone and all of a sudden at the end, out from her shoulder, I didn't know it the whole time, her husband and her desks backed up to each other, out pops his toes and he starts clipping his toenails. Yes.
You actually have those stories. I'm going to need a collection at some point. That would be fun. We should do like a joint reel or something that's like all the absurd things you see on it.
They're crazy. Yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah. And I get it, you guys. And it's such a fine line. And I feel like as the leader of the Free Mama, I need to really be clear. Like I do not exemplify this well every time I show up, but that's because I'm showing up as the person who's already built the thing. Like, I own the building. You're coming to my house. I get to show up right after yoga class. Part of that is showing you what is possible for you. Laura already shared with you, she built this and she owned it so that she could pick her kids up from school and go for a run outside during the day. So she's not hiding that she does that. What she's talking about is how do you create a solid first impression? That first time where you're really, because it's really all about creating trust. And, if you're shady, literally or figuratively, you're not going to create a space where they can trust you. And if they can't trust you, they're not going to hire you because it's their little baby that they're wanting to invite you into. So So good. All right. I got one last question for you. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. You know this. The mission of the Free Mama is to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So knowing that and the variety of topics we talked about on today's episode, do you have one last tip or piece of advice that you would like to share with all of our listeners?
Oh, it feels so like I have to say something so profound, but I would just say, gosh, this just hit me to my core today. Enjoy the ride, enjoy where you are. My youngest is going to be in kindergarten next year, 5. And I'm like, yay, all one drop off. And then I was like, wow, did I just wish away 5 years so they could all be at one school? So if you have a baby and you're frustrated because you have a discovery call and the baby's crying, just embrace it. That might not be the discovery call you land, or you might have to stay up a little later to get something done, but just embrace wherever you are. Don't put so much pressure. When you have the baby at home, that's not the time you're going to have a 40-hour-a-week client possibly, right? Don't wish away the time or the years. Just embrace it. Enjoy where you are and know business will always be there. There will always be something to build. Just think in a year from now, there's going to be a job opportunity to be a clubhouse manager because all these crazy entrepreneurs are going to need to be able to manage their clubhouse appearances, right? That's brand new. There's always going to be something. So just enjoy it now.
Fun advice from the mullet queen herself. I'm just kidding. If you can't see her, she doesn't have a mullet, but maybe someday it could really match your brand. Laura, thank you so much for this very real and impactful conversation. I learned a lot. I appreciate it a lot. I'm just so grateful for our partnership and our friendship and for you pouring into these free mamas. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you. Now I feel vulnerable. Like Lauren made me open up, but yes, I'm so grateful. Thank you. This was awesome. And we got to link Annie Grace. We'll do that.
Yes, we'll put all the links. Thanks for the reminder, Laura. We'll put all the links, the books that she recommended, the resources for anybody else who's trying to overcome the mommy culture, as well as how you guys can join her Facebook group and learn more about the Matchmaker program as well. So freemamaradio.com. If you like today's episode of Free Mama Radio, take a screenshot wherever you're listening. Tag us both on social media and we would love to share it as well. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Free Mama Radio. Don't forget to check out Free Mama TV right here on YouTube for hundreds of how-to videos and interviews to help you start, grow, and scale a virtual business from home. If you want to join a community of tens of thousands of moms just like you, make sure you join the Free Mama Movement group over on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how we can do this together, work to achieve your goals, and make you our next success story, check out my free training at thefreemamamovement.com. I'll see you next time.